The Philadelphia 76ers had the third pick in the 2017 NBA draft, but decided to trade up to get the first pick from the Celtics and give them their pick. The Sixers picked Markelle Fultz with the first pick. His career in Philadelphia didn't go that well, where the Sixers traded Fultz to the Magic in 2019 for Jonathan Simmons, a first-round pick and a second-round pick. While with the third overall pick, the Celtics drafted Jayson Tatum, who has become one of the best young forwards in the NBA. In Tatum's 5 years in the league, he has become an All-Star 3 times, made All-NBA twice, and led the Celtics to a finals appearance last season. While the Sixers have struggled to make it past the second round of the playoffs and have lost some of their key players like Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons, they managed to bounce back from these mishaps and have continued to stay in the conversation of being contenders by trading for an offensive superstar in James Harden and drafting a player who has all-star potential in Tyrese Maxey. They also have one of the best centers in the NBA, who has finished top 3 in MVP voting multiple times in Joel Embiid. So it seems like their team is doing just fine, but what if they drafted Jayson Tatum instead of Markelle Fultz? If the Sixers decide to draft Tatum with the first pick in the draft, then they will have a starting lineup with Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Jayson Tatum, Robert Covington, and Joel Embiid. I think Tatum will help the Sixers achieve a record of 57-25 and finish as the second seed in the East. The reason I believe this is because they get more help on the offensive end of the court with them drafting Tatum. The Celtics were originally the second seed, but since they lost Jayson Tatum and probably drafted Markelle Fultz, who only played 14 games in the season, they would probably become the 6th seed in the East with a record of 47-35. This means that the Sixers would play the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. Philadelphia would beat Milwaukee in 6 games because the Sixers have too much offensive power. In the second round of the playoffs, the Sixers would face the Cleveland Cavaliers, who moved up to the 3rd seed after the Celtics finished as the 6th seed instead of the 2nd seed. In the matchup between the Sixers and Cavs, I think the Cavs will win in 7 games because LeBron was playing really well in the playoffs, with him averaging 34 points, 9 assists, and 9.1 rebounds. The Sixers are a young team as well, with most of their players not having a lot of experience in the playoffs. This leads to Philadelphia entering the offseason with a lot to be excited about, from their team having a lot of young players who haven't reached their full potential yet, like Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Jayson Tatum. In the 2018 NBA draft, I think the Sixers will still make a trade with the Suns where they receive Zaire Smith in exchange for Mikal Bridges, because they already have good forwards such as Robert Covington and Jayson Tatum. They will select Landry Shamet with the 26th pick as well, so they won't make any changes with the players they acquire in the draft. Philadelphia will also have the same outcome in free agency because all they did is re-sign JJ Redick to a 1-year deal and sign Amir Johnson to a 1-year deal. In the regular season, I see the Sixers winning 4 more games to turn their record to 55-27. I think the Sixers will still obtain Jimmy Butler in a trade due to Philadelphia still having the pieces in the trade on their team. However, I don't think they would trade for Tobias Harris because they will already have 2 great forwards in Jayson Tatum and Jimmy Butler. This means that the Sixers will have a starting lineup with Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Jayson Tatum, Jimmy Butler, and Joel Embiid. They will still be the 3rd seed because I think the Bucks and Raptors will stay as the 1st and 2nd seed in the East. In the playoffs, the Sixers will play the Brooklyn Nets and beat them in 5 games. Then they will play the Raptors but lose them in 7 games because even though they have Jayson Tatum on the team, he's still a young player at this point who hasn't taken that next step yet. Tatum also put up worse numbers than Tobias Harris in the playoffs, which is another reason why I see the Sixers losing again in the second round of the playoffs. In the 2019 to 2020 season, the Sixers have a lot of choices on what they should do with their team. The players they obtained in the draft would stay the same. In free agency, I see the Sixers wanting to trade Jimmy Butler because I see the Sixers and Butler not trusting each other and having different interests like they originally did. The Sixers would trade Jimmy Butler to the Miami Heat for Josh Richardson. Since Philadelphia didn't trade for Tobias Harris last season, he wouldn't sign with the Sixers, which means that they will have enough money to re-sign key players like JJ Redick and TJ McConnell. I think the rest of their free agency signings would stay the same, with them acquiring another All-Star in Al Horford. The 76ers will start off the season with a starting lineup with Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Jayson Tatum, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid. From Tatum's improvement, I think this will help Philadelphia win 7 more games, which will give them a record of 50-23 and make third seed in the East. The Boston Celtics were initially the third seed, but now that they don't have Jayson Tatum, it will give them less wins and turn them into a sixth seed. This leads to a matchup of the Sixers versus the Celtics in the first round. Even though Ben Simmons got injured in the regular season, which kept him out of the playoffs, I think the Sixers would still beat the Celtics in 6 games. Philadelphia's next opponent will be the Toronto Raptors, and I think the 76ers will be able to beat them in 7 games to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, which is what they haven't done since the 2000 to 2001 season with Allen Iverson. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Sixers will play the Miami Heat. I think the Heat will win in 6 games because many of their role players were playing extremely well during their playoff run, like Tyler Hero, Jay Crowder, Duncan Robinson, and Goran Dragic. Philadelphia was also without Ben Simmons in the playoffs, which I think would be the difference in the Heat winning the series and the Sixers having to continue to figure out a way to make it to the finals. In the 2020 to 2021 offseason, I believe that the 76ers would still fire their head coach Brett Brown and hire Doc Rivers because Brown was unable to get the Sixers to the finals. They will also still hire Daryl Morey as their president of basketball operations. In the 2020 draft, the Sixers won't be able to pick Tyrese Maxey because they will have the 26th pick instead of the 21st pick, to them finishing as the 3rd seed in the East. With their pick, I think they'll draft Jaden McDaniels because they need more forwards on their team that can defend and shoot. The Sixers will also trade away some of their players like Al Horford to the Thunder for Danny Green, and trade away Josh Richardson to the Mavericks for Seth Curry, which is what they originally did in the offseason. This means that the Sixers will have 3 great shooters in J.J. Redick, Seth Curry, and Danny Green. I think the 76ers will sign Jay Crowder in free agency because they need a starting power forward since they trade away Al Horford. Crowder would be the best option for their team because he can space the floor and guard multiple positions. Philadelphia will also sign Dwight Howard because they need a backup center. In the regular season, the Sixers will stay as the 1st seed in the East and win 5 more games, which will give them a record of 54-18. Due to the Celtics facing a lot of injuries on their team, I think they will miss the playoffs and the Wizards will become the 7th seed while the Pacers make the playoffs as the 8th seed. This means that the Sixers will play the Pacers and I think they will win in 4 games. In the second round, they will play the Hawks. Now that they have Jayson Tatum, they have another scoring option on their team that can take the pressure off Joel Embiid. Because of that, I think they will beat the Hawks in 5 games. The Sixers will play the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I believe that the 76ers will be able to win in 7 games. It will be a close series, but I think the Sixers' role players will help them beat the Bucks. Philadelphia has a variety of players on their team that can help them win, like Matisse Thybulle, who is a great defender, Danny Green and Steph Curry, who are good 3-point shooters, and Jay Crowder, who can do a little bit of everything on the team. The 76ers won't need Ben Simmons to score either because they have 2 players on their team that can get them a bucket, Jayson Tatum and Joel Embiid. So Ben Simmons can play the role of a playmaker on the team. The Sixers' opponent in the finals will be the Phoenix Suns, where I see Philadelphia winning 6 games because they have a lot of players over 6'5" that the Suns won't be able to defend that well. This means that the 76ers will win the championship and bring the trophy to Philadelphia. The Sixers will have to defend their championship title in the 2021 to 2022 season, and I think they will have a good chance of doing it. The only players their team will lose is J.J. Redick due to him retiring, and Dwight Howard in free agency because they will sign Andre Drummond instead. So the 76ers starting lineup will stay the same as last season. I think the Sixers will be able to win 7 more games, which will give them a record of 58-24 and give them the 1st seed in the East as well. The Celtics originally finished as the 2nd seed, but they lost their best player in Jayson Tatum, so I think they will become the 7th seed instead. This means the original 5th through 7th seeds in the East will move up 1 seed. Since Philadelphia is the 1st seed, they will play the Atlanta Hawks, and I think they will win in 4 games. In the second round, they will play the Toronto Raptors. In the first round, the Raptors will outplay the Bulls and beat them in 6 games. I believe that the 76ers will win in 5 games against the Raptors because they will have a more balanced roster that can score and defend efficiently. Philadelphia's next opponent will be the Milwaukee Bucks, who have just beaten the Miami Heat. I think the Sixers will win in 7 games because they will have a better overall roster than the Bucks. The 76ers also have players on their team that can consistently make threes, which is what I think will help them get past Milwaukee. In the finals, the Sixers will match up against the Golden State Warriors. I see Philadelphia winning in 7 games because the Sixers have a great center in Joel Embiid, while the Warriors' starting center will have been Kevon Looney, which is a mismatch that the Sixers will have used to their advantage. The 76ers also have more scoring options than Golden State, which is another reason why I see Philadelphia winning another championship for their franchise. If the Sixers drafted Jayson Tatum, then I think it will benefit them greatly in the long run and give them a better chance to win a championship. Tatum has proven that he is one of the best forwards in the NBA. So if you add him to a team with an MVP caliber center in Joel Embiid, and at the time a great playmaking guard in Ben Simmons, then they could have accomplished a lot of great things. It's interesting to think about what will have happened if the 76ers drafted Jayson Tatum, because if they did, then the process probably will have ended with them winning a championship.